with this VHS project, what do you feel that you bring to this project compared to the others?
Well, I'm definitely coming from a pretty different background than most of the other filmmakers, at least with the work that I've made previously. I don't know. Hopefully, hopefully my experience making, relationship movies and sort of emotionally based relationship stuff is that, my segment of VHS, while hopefully scary, is also grounded in reality and has a relationship at the center of it that feels real and that people can connect to.
Was that sort of the, I guess, appeal for you doing something like this, because it's not really something that you're really accustomed to?
Definitely. I mean, it had a lot of appeal to me for many reasons. I mean, it was a chance to do something short that was hopefully going to be seen by people in a feature context, which isn't always the case. Like if you make a short film, there's just still pretty limited ways that people see short films. It's not often that they go to the multiplex to watch a short film. So that was really exciting to get to try something out in the short form that also was going to end up playing as a feature. And then, I've really, in the last couple of years, been trying to challenge myself as a filmmaker to do things that I haven't done or that aren't, sort of typical of my work, basically because I want to keep getting better at, and keep practicing and trying different things. My biggest fear is to just end up making the same movie over and over, or to develop such a distinct style that it just starts to feel like a rehash of itself. So, I'm trying to push outside of that a little bit, and also it was sort of great fun to have the challenge of scaring people, which is it's not easy to do. There's a lot of ways to go about it, but the end result either works or doesn't work. So that was kind of a cool challenge.
And you mentioned how you sort of have a background with doing this, even though it's a different project. You do have an extensive background with doing low budgets, little time, and improvisation. Talk to me a little bit about how you used previous experiences on different films, which are different than this, while also sort of grounding them into the reality of scaring people in this film.
Sure. Well, I definitely cast this film in the same way that I always do. I had seen Helen Rogers, who plays Emily. I had seen her in a short film called Block and I thought she was really amazing in it. And so I actually met with her on Skype for the first time, which ended up being kind of ironic. And Daniel, who plays James, is a filmmaker friend of mine. He's somebody who I got to know a little bit while he was in film school through another friend. And, he's typically a director, but he does a little bit of acting. And that's something, I tend to ask directors a lot to act in my stuff. So, I basically, even though the material that we were shooting was, intense and scary and involved special effects and all that kind of stuff, I tried to really take the same attitude on set that I would on just a small movie and keep it light and work short days and go out to restaurants to eat rather than have catering or craft services and things like that. Just a lot of the stuff that I like to do on any of my movies. I did on this one, and also, I've always been interested in technology and how it, affects communication and relationships and things like that. So it was fun to continue that thread and sort of play around with Skype as a way for these characters to communicate.
And you mentioned Skype, and that's interesting because, as everyone knows, we're in the technology world now with found footage and YouTube and camera phones. I want to talk to you a little bit about the found footage genre. of course, we had it before with the Blair Witch Project, and then Paranormal Activity, and now with this VHS film. I'm talking a little bit about what you see as the sort of appeal in these films, because I know there's a certain level of realism, and people love realism and reality, but besides that, what do you see as the appeal and the draw for these films?
Well, I think they work particularly well as horror films because your scope is limited as a viewer. Like, you're basically looking through the lens of a camera, which means there's always things to the right or the left or up or down that you can't see as a viewer, which I think immediately increases the tension of a movie. Whereas something that's shot from an omniscient point of view, you're very aware that the filmmaker is, actively choosing to hide something from you, right? But when you feel like you're just the POV of the person holding the camera, you feel like anything could sneak up on you at any moment, and I think that that's a really scary feeling. And I feel like found footage, what's sort of classified as found footage, is also just a visual technique, and I think that one of the fun things about VHS is that everybody's kind of like has their own take on it. It's not necessarily the idea of like a tape got discovered in the woods. It's more like just using that idea of the limited point of view as a visual aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the characters themselves, it's interesting when you're in a short film like this, which you have great experience in, but when you're doing something like this with a short film and other directors, how do you, I guess, find where you think your place is in a film like this with the rest of the stories? Did you ever, I guess, have difficulty or trouble trying to figure out where you wanted, or where you guys all wanted to put your separate stories into one?
Well, the producers, Roxanne Benjamin and Brad Miska and Gary Binkow, I think they made some really smart choices as producers on this movie. One of those choices was to not make everybody feel like they had to fit into a bigger overall structure. There was a lot of freedom given to each team to make their movie. And, the results of that, when I watched the finished movie, I feel like the result of that is a lot of cool crossover between the segments that gives the movie a unifying feeling, but then also all of the styles are different, and everybody's kind of playing around with different things. So it was really fun because I didn't have to necessarily worry about okay, well, I have the fourth segment and it has to be this long and it has to be, this stuff has to happen because so-and-so is doing this thing in theirs. It was more like I just had the freedom to make my own film. And then those decisions, like the placement, which order the movies were in and the themes and things like that, were decisions really made by the producers that weren't put on us as filmmakers. So I had one of the better experiences making this movie just because there was so much freedom. I just felt completely capable of doing whatever I wanted, and then I felt like they would make those smart decisions later to make sure that it worked within the context of the whole project.
Mm-hmm. And for yourself, as a director and also a film fan, when you were growing up, what were some of your favorite VHS films that you remember watching?
Stand By Me is definitely, it was, my grandma had that movie at her house on VHS, and I remember every time we'd go and visit her, I'd watch Stand By Me. So that's probably one of the movies I've seen the most in my life. Also, Raising Arizona was a big watch for me. It was one of the first movies that I bought. And then I worked at a video store in high school. I worked at Hollywood Video. So, when I think of VHS, I also think about walking along. One of the things that we had to do at the video store was take all the boxes and make sure that they were properly centered and aligned and up to the edge of the shelf and all that kind of stuff. So whenever I think of VHS, I think about hours and hours of my life in high school spent walking the rows of that Hollywood video, like taking every box and like centering it and pulling it out to the edge of the shelf. So I could probably tell you what the cover of almost any movie, what the VHS cover of almost any movie is, because I spent so much time looking at those boxes.
I used to work at Blockbuster, so I know all about it too. Trust me. but all my stores are closed now, unfortunately.
I know. Well, I know all the Hollywood videos are closed too.
And the next question for you is, as interesting with you doing this film, VHS, and having your own personal success, and also with the Duplass brothers having their success with Jeff Who Lives at Home and some other films that they've done, and Greta Gerwig with Greenberg. What has it been like for you to see all these people that you've worked with go to the next level?
Well, it's been really fun. I mean, part of what's cool about it is that, like, everybody's sort of been taking those steps to the next level together, so it's been really a kind of fun, seamless transition from making really tiny movies together to starting to make bigger movies together. And it's cool, part of me, the first time that I worked with Greta Gerwig, it seemed very obvious to me that she was a movie star and she ought to be really famous and acting in big movies, so like, part of it's validating to see her getting that success. Another part of me feels like, why did it take so long? I feel like,
right.
I feel like when we shot Hannah Takes the Stairs in the summer of 2006, I was like, oh my God, she's going to be like a movie star next year. But everything sort of, it has this kind of longer, more gradual progression to it, which is kind of nice. I think that that's a little healthier and better than like overnight fame.
Of course.
But yeah, it's been really great. I think it's also cool because the stuff that we were sort of originally doing, the kind of like mumblecore stuff, it's been fun to see that infiltrating Hollywood a little bit. I think that the bigger budget movies stand to benefit a lot from some new ideas and different ways of making movies. So it's been really fun to sort of start to see that happen in the last couple of years.
Oh, of course. Have you seen Safety Not Guaranteed yet?
No, I really want to see it because Jake Johnson from that movie just acted in my new movie, so I'm really excited to check it out.
And my final question for you is, when it comes to filmmakers, a term that they use a lot is passion. So I want to ask you, right now, passion is something that can, I guess, go in spurts, sometimes really high, sometimes really low. Where do you gauge your passion right now at this stage in your career for films and filmmaking?
It's about as high as it's ever been. It definitely took a dip for me in 2008 and 2009, where I was not very excited about making movies and really looking for other things to get me passionate. But lately, starting in January, at Sundance, going to Sundance with VHS and having that incredible experience of showing the movie and having everybody react in such a big way to it. This whole year has just been a really fun ride for me, where I feel like I'm getting the opportunity to do a lot of things that I haven't been able to do before. So I'm excited and ready to make movies right now in a way that I haven't been all the time.